What is happening, people? Good morning. Welcome to the ASTROLABE, brought to you by Kingpilled. It's good to have you here, boys and girls. Ready for some bangers? Got some good ones today. Got some funny stuff. Got some probably, I don't know, not enraging, maybe exasperating stuff. Got some schizo stuff. And we got some interesting political analysis and thoughts. And this is not the only stream of the day. We are also going to be doing the long-promised Tucker Carlson interview of Nayib Bukele review. We're going to do a live watch-through this afternoon. Cooper will be here. We'll see what his moniker is for the day. One of my favorites he's done is the Art Alchemist. It's one of my favorites because I'm the one who came up with it. But yesterday afternoon, Cooper and I were sitting and working on... he was working on, and I was watching him and providing commentary as he's working on stuff for the Alembic, the soon-to-come next show on the King-Pilled Network, brought to you by the Art Alchemist himself, Cooper Brooks. He is going to be gracing you with his artistic talent, and I think you guys are really going to like it. So, how are you guys doing today? What's going on with everybody out there in King-Pilled land? I've got an early clip for you guys to get you hype. We're going to get you all hot and bothered. We're going to hit this one early, especially for those of the friends of ours who are on the West Coast. Because this probably shouldn't really be applicable to you on the East Coast yet, but it's always a good time to listen to this one.
Get the fuck out of bed, bitch, go. Get up, and then they got go. Time to wake up, bitch, get up. Get up.
Getting hype. Hell yeah. All right. I'm hyped now. Are you guys? What's up, Duffhead? Woo! Man, that one gets me all hot and bothered. I should figure out. I'm a basic bitch iPhone user, so I got to figure out how to get that into my my alarm, so I could actually wake up to that in the morning. That would be so much fun. Get the fuck out of bed, bitch. Go. All right. We got another funny one here. Let's see. Similar vibe. Watch him stop. This parrot is literally me. Parrot's hype. The person who tweeted it out said, the moment the parrot stops before the drop got me laughing so hard. Parrot's got a good sense of rhythm. Parrots are funny little guys, man. They're either really friendly and affectionate and like charming, got a lot of personality, or they're just absolute assholes. Cantankerous, cranky, angry old bitches. Is there something wrong with the stream? Because it's showing 0 viewers, and that shouldn't be right. Hold on a second. Bear with me. It's been a very long time since we had 0 viewers at one time. Let me refresh this page real quick. Okay. All right. Okay. Looks like we're good to go. So here's another one. Uncle Doomer tweets, fellas, Pro tip. Bookmark this video and send it to your girl when she's mad and yelling at you. This is, I'll play it for you guys, and then we'll talk about it.
Nasa chillón,
This is big white boy summer vibes.
Tenemos una experiencia. Look. No pasa nada, bebé.
So this is interesting because obviously, if you on its face, if you think, okay, my wife's or my girl is angry at me, she's yelling, and I send her this, and I send her a video of a little creature that's angry and yelling and freaking out, then on its face you'd think this would really rile her up. On the other hand, you're sending her a video of a baby that is super cute and adorable and is going to get all of her baby juices flowing and melt her heart. So you're really, really starting to manipulate the emotions. Makes it even better. And then beyond that, if she begins to really internalize what you're comparing her to, you're saying she's a dainty, adorable, super cute little thing that needs to be coddled and cared for and protected by a calm, confident man. There's some power in that imagery. Kate says, I didn't know a baby deer could be that loud. Yeah, the other day I was driving home ran over to the gas station in the evening, and I was driving home, and there was I saw a deer coming up in the outlines I could see the outline of it in my headlights. And as I got closer and closer, then I saw a little tiny outline, and there was a fawn right behind it that was not even as tall as its mother's belly. Like, it was a tiny little guy, and the mama was standing right in front of it, protecting it. And then she's sitting there watching me, and as I get closer and closer and closer, then she darts a little ways away, further away from the road, and the fawn is just immediately mirroring all of her movements right behind her. I thought it was pretty sweet seeing how she starts to step out, and then she sees me, and then she turns and shades the fawn with her body. If you're a man, you like to see mothers at work. You like to see mothers doing motherly things. There's something very wholesome and wonderful about it. All right, let's see what we got now. Now this one here, this is not dainty and sweet and cute. There's nothing feminine about this video. This is the exact opposite. This is the far end of the spectrum, you might say. An IMDb Rain Man. Check this guy out.
Name some movies, Tyler.
All right, The Longest Yard.
May 27, 2005.
Titanic.
December 19, 1997.
The Goonies.
June 7, 1985.
Rocky 1.
November 21st, 1976.
Rocky 2.
June 15, 1979.
Caddyshack.
July 25th, 1980.
Because of Winn-Dixie.
February 18, 2005.
Can you name a movie that came out on a certain day?
Yeah.
February 15th, 2002.
Let's see. Crossroads, Hearts War, John Q, Return to Neverland, and Super Trooper.
It's my birthday.
September 7th, 2004.
That was the Tuesday. Let's see. The Musketeer, Two Can Play That Game.
August 22nd, 97.
G.I. Jane, Mimic, Money Talks, Leave It to Beaver, and Masterminds.
He's undefeated.
I got one. I got a good one.
Good.
Meteor Man.
August 6th, 1993. August.
Old school black movie. Shit.
I'm old school, baby.
So this is actually really fascinating to me. There's so many things that are implied by this. Number one, obviously, the dude's got some crazy autism, and he has found his niche where he has applied his autism. But beyond that, what's interesting is, number one, what does this imply? This implies he has actually sat and inserted all of those things into his brain. He's gone and he has studied every single one of those dates, studied every single one of the movies that, I don't know where you would find this list where you just go chronologically by movies. Can you do this on IMDb? I don't even know if you can go open up a calendar and literally see a list of movies for every single date, but he's gone and he's actually consumed all of that at some point in some way. And then he has the recall to bring it back. I think whenever I see these kinds of things, like the Rain Man movie itself, the dropping the toothpicks and counting them immediately and everything, what stands out to me is that this is something that the human brain is capable of. The human brain is actually capable of taking this information, storing it, and then having it available for immediate recall. It just so happens that the vast majority of people, for whatever reason, don't have access to that or have not cultivated that. And so this seems bizarre and like supernatural to us. But I think part of this has to do with the evolution of language and the way that, like, once upon a time you have oral traditions and everything is passed along orally. And then the rise of the written word. So with the oral traditions, you memorize all these stories. So you tell stories to people you tell the stories that other people have told you to still more people. And you have to memorize those stories. But memorizing the spoken word is different from memorizing the written word. So then you get the rise of the written word. And a corresponding effect of that is suddenly the memorization of anything is not nearly as important. Now, it doesn't fall off immediately, because then people go to like memorizing the written word. But if you have something that's written and available to you at all times, which is now where we've gotten with the internet, now at any point I can just pick up my phone and Google something and just figure out the answer. Go get the definition of this word, or look up this concept, or open up a video and watch something about it. It's immediately available at hand to me, so I actually don't need to use that brain power toward that. I can put it towards something else. The problem is that the other things that we're putting our brain power to, in many cases, are not useful. It's not productive. So we've substituted something productive for something unproductive. And now, what could be a boon, what could be like a massive force multiplier, is actually manifesting as a net negative. It's decreasing human competence. This is, with every technology cycle, you're going to get some sort of externality like this. And there's going to be, I don't have the numbers for this, I just know it intuitively. Source, me. There's a Pareto distribution where 80 to 90% of people are going to actually use it, 80 to 90% of people are going to allow the technology to become a crutch and to make them worse and to diminish their capacity. Kind of like can I even talk about that? Let me be careful about this. So when the recent unpleasantness was happening and there were people who were being taken into medical institutions and having a particular apparatus applied to them that would mechanically sustain the function of their lungs. One of the effects of that, like having a cast on your leg, is that it actually diminishes your body's natural capacity. Your body responds to that and like shrinks away from it. So you get total loss of muscle in the leg where you have a cast on it. And so one of the downstream effects of this was people's breathing capacity, their innate breathing capacity was being effectively disabled. Their bodies were losing the memory of how to do this particular function. Because they're like, oh, well, here, this other thing's going to do it for me. And when that other thing starts doing it for you, well, if that thing stops for whatever reason, then now your body has lost the ability to do that. So kaput to you. And then because your body is a whole networked, it's a network of networks, a whole bunch of interconnected systems. When one of them becomes dysfunctional, it has knock-on effects through all the other ones. So, even though we can externalize our memory now to a large degree, exceptionally large degree, more than anybody else, it has actually increased the necessity for us to focus on retaining our own memories and actually intentionally memorizing things. Whether it's then this is where literature and poetry and that sort of thing can be really useful, because it has a natural flow, a natural meter, a tempo. It has a narrative structure to it, and that helps to refine the actual capacity to learn in general. So you get better at learning, and then that can expand elsewhere. So that was that clip, and that actually ties into a couple of other clips I wanted to share, but I put these in a particular order for a reason. So I don't think I'm gonna change my order just yet. We'll get to that story here shortly. Here's one from a business perspective for those of you aspiring entrepreneurs out there who want to be inspired. We've talked about this guy on the show here before, Chris Kerner. He says, quote, all the best business ideas are taken. Then you found a guy charging $500 an hour to rent out his beer-serving wedding donkey. He is booked 3 years out. I'm in love with this idea in business, doing a deep dive on my podcast and newsletter soon. Going to go buy a donkey first, though. This is he's got a great newsletter. He's a great follow. He's got all kinds of different ideas like this that he's pushing out all the time. So if you're someone who maybe you've got some time, you've got some money, but you're just kind of punching the time clock. You're not really sure where to start. You don't really know how to get into it. If anything, this guy will help you begin thinking along the right lines. You start kind of thinking outside the box. Like, who would come up with having a donkey that delivers beer at a wedding? It's brilliant. Look at her. So let's look up real quick and see how much is a miniature donkey. Okay, depending on the auction, a miniature donkey can range from as low as $200 up to over $2,500 per single donkey. So let's just split the difference. Let's say $1,500. So you have to have a donkey that's trained, or you have to train it. It has to be one that is, maybe if it's very docile, then at first you can start off having someone. They may even have someone who's there walking it, guiding it around. So you're paying salary for one person, and it can just be you at first. So you don't even have to pay yourself. That means if you're charging $500 an hour, then it's going to take you 3 hours to pay for the donkey. And then after that, you're set. So this guy is booked 3 years out. Who knows how many? I would figure that the average day would be, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 5 hours, something like that, depending on the size of the party and how crazy it is and whatever else. So you're probably gonna pay the donkey off in the first event, and then you might have some setup costs for a website and for some marketing and that sort of thing. But man, if you had $5,000, you could start a business and you could make all your money back in maybe a couple of months, if that. And then beyond that, the overhead is going to be the cost of taking care of a donkey, which isn't insignificant. Like, obviously, if you live in an apartment, you probably can't do something like this unless you want to go you might be able to find a place where you can like a farm or something. You can go rent place. You can have, like, say, hey, can my donkey come graze on your land and stay here, and I'll show up and take care of it. Eventually, if donkey's making enough money, you just hire someone to drop in, take care of the donkey and make sure it's fed and groomed and all that sort of stuff. So you could get something like this that could be massively profitable very easily, very, very shortly. And the presence of the internet actually makes this even more possible. It really raises the ceiling on what you can do with it, because you can market, you can advertise on the internet, you can use social media, Instagram post, have an Instagram account or a TikTok where you do videos, go viral all the time. Everyone's desperate for this sort of content. This sort of thing is easy viral stuff. You just have to be moderately competent with social media. So you get it going, and then get yourself a whole herd of them. You could make probably millions of dollars a year if you had a herd of donkeys that went out and did weddings like this. And you could add it. You could maybe teach the donkeys how to do tricks. You could. There's all sorts of different things that you could add on to it. You could do themes with it. You could do really large weddings, and it would scale pretty easily. It's a brilliant idea. See, this is the sort of thing everyone wants to talk about, how the job market is so bad and the economy sucks and it's impossible to get anything to grow or to break out beyond the sort of natural social strata. And something like this, nobody would think of this, but it's brilliant, it's easy, it's simple. And we've got this weird thing where on one hand, nobody has any money and the economy sucks and everyone's struggling, yet there's still super expensive weddings and people are willing to pay crazy amounts of money for something like this. I guarantee you, it would be the easiest sell in the world to a woman. We're gonna spend $1,500 and we're gonna hire a miniature donkey to come deliver the booze at our reception for 3 hours. Easiest sell in the world. And then this is for the young men out there. If you have your eye on a young lass, maybe you're even engaged already and you're planning the wedding. This would be a very, very easy add-on to massively enhance the experience, create the memories. It works all across the board. I love this kind of stuff. I have a whole folder on Twitter of white pills and another one of business ideas. And anytime I see something like this, I drop it in the folder just to accumulate it, build it up, have ideas that are in there. And so then what I'd love to be the guy that someone's like, hey, I want to start a business, but I don't know what to do. Okay, here you go. Here's a whole list of different ideas. See if this kicks off the creative juices. That'll be a $1,000 consultation fee. Thank you very much. Okay. So now I think, okay, we got these here. And then, so we're going to watch a clip. I'm sorry that I'm subjecting you guys to this. I will put it on 1.5 so it doesn't last for long. But there's an unfortunate, I believe she's a cancer patient here, who has some thoughts about White Boy Summer.
Donald Trump's visit to Detroit this weekend was characterized by most of the media as a visit to a black church to court black voters, despite the noticeable scarcity of black people in the sanctuary. But that was not his only stop in the Motor City. Shortly after having his religious experience, slandering immigrants and banging on about crime, just as immigrant Jesus would have done, the twice impeached 34-count felon and adjudicated sexual assaulter, who's soon to be the Republican presidential nominee, shuffled over to the People's Convention, hosted by right-wing Turning Point USA, founded by anti-Dr. King and black pilots activist Charlie Kirk. And what was one of the messages shared with participants at that gathering? Not one I suspect would go over so well at church. That right there is right-wing Pizzagate conspiracy theorist Jack Prosobiec unfurling a flag reading White Boy Summer, while hats with the same slogan were tossed to the screaming audience. For those who may not remember, and why would you? White Boy Summer was originally a line from a viral 2021 social media rant by legendary actor Tom Hanks' lesser-known son, Chet Hanks. The rant played off Megan Thee Stallion's hit 2019 song, Hot Girl Summer.
Hey guys, look, I just wanted to tap in really quick. I just got this feeling, man, that this summer is it's about to be a white boy summer. You know, take it how you want. I'm not talking about like Trump, NASCAR type white. I'm talking about, me, John B., Jack Harlow type white boy summer. You know what I mean?
Oh, Chet. As you might expect, folks made fun of young Chet, even as the Jamaican accent parroting culture vulture launched a line of T-shirts and even a rap song for it, complete with the music video. White Boy Summer quickly took off as a hilarious meme, and people had a legit good time with it. But it wasn't long before...
She is fucking seething. You can see it. She is absolutely seething about this, in particular because of this cultural appropriation. Queen Meghan and her Hot Girl Summer song. How dare you pervert that with your whiteness? How dare you bring your disgusting, sick white boyness into our beautiful Black Queen song? Taylor Brown says, so when does the cancer win? I like, it's funny to watch. I never, ever watch these things. I never see corporate press, just normal news monologues and stuff. The closest that I've come is the watching Tucker occasionally when he was still at Fox. It's been years since I've watched this stuff. So it's surreal to go back and see it. And actually, like, the mystique is completely gone. You know, when I remember being a kid and watching this and being like, oh, wow. Like, before I even knew what a teleprompter was, I was like, man, these people are really good at talking. They just, like, they're such effective communicators. The words are just falling right out of their mouths, and they just have this whole thing just planned out in their head, and they're just talking. Like, I mean, I didn't have any problem talking, but to do it in this really coherent manner, that was unfamiliar to me. And now it's like the mystique is completely gone. I'm just watching an actor or an actress who's reciting lines. They don't even memorize their own lines. They're reciting lines being held up to them on cards. And then giving the appropriate emotional gestures to inform the audience of what they need to believe about it. But I would say probably half the people who are even the people, you take the subset of people who like her, who are watching her for because my Joy Reid event of the day, which is obviously not a lot of people, honestly. Even if like half of those people probably see this and just intuitively are like, that's really cool. Like these people are having fun. This looks awesome. That little voice is popping up in the back of their head and they're like, no, they're fighting it. But this is just advertising. It's just marketing.
For the thirsty far right and white supremacists decided it was time to cancel everyone's fun and culturally appropriate the cultural appropriation for their own purposes, using the phrase in their online memes to try to attract unsuspecting white youth to their cause. The Anti-Defamation League describes their tactics, writing that
unsuspecting white youth. They're unsuspecting. So now is it the white youth are being victimized? Is that what it is? It's these white guys, they're unsuspecting. Those poor unsuspecting white boys on the internet. They don't know that they're being attracted into a movement of hate. They're unsuspecting. Poor white boys. We need to save the white boys.
While some white boy summer memes include white supremacist neo-Nazi symbols, such as swastikas or references to the white supremacist 14 words slogan, other white boy summer promoters are tactically watering down their content to attract less extreme users and disseminate their content widely. One Telegram account outlined the plan, encouraging users to strategically create content without the use of fascist or Nazi symbols so normies can get in the mood for white boy summer and not get scared away. I don't know how many in that Detroit audience.
She's just teaching them our language. Oh, hold on just a second here. I'm pulling up a clip that this reminded me of. I don't know why I didn't think of this in the first place, but okay, coming back here. We'll finish this and then I'll jump over to the other post.
Grasping at the pink hats knew what they were signing up for, or maybe they just wanted a free hat, and I'm not sure how many at a conference like that one would be considered normies, but Jack Posobiec sure knew what he was doing when he strutted across that stage with that flag, because he's a professional fascism-curious right-wing troll. And at this stage, White Boy Summer is no longer a funny Chet
Professional fascism-curious right-wing troll. Clip that one, chat. I bet you, if he hasn't already, Jack Posobiec needs to put that in his bio. Professional fascism-curious right-wing troll.
Hanks meme. It's an explicit white supremacist message, no different than when Trump says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country, or that blacks like him because he's a criminal, or that black-run cities like Baltimore, Chicago, or Detroit, or any city run by a black person is like living in hell. And if you're curious what a white boy summer might look like to the MAGA right, well, they told participants during the convention, and we'll share that with you next.
So I haven't found the other clip. I didn't care, but this is funny. So Joy Reid claims white boy summer is dangerous rhetoric. Good friend of the show, Jim Strabo, is pitching his wares appropriately. WBS Apparel, go check him out. Another good friend of the show, William Coleman, he's enjoying white boy summer. What happened to her hair? White boy summer, take it. Yeah. See, the comments are not very favorable. Okay, so the other thing is this. So from AF Post, which is I have my own thoughts about the outlet, but I'm keeping an eye for now. It says Wikipedia bans the ADL from being cited as a source for labeling, quote, legitimate criticism of Israel as anti-Semitism. And we were having a chat about this in the Discord, and one of my favorite commentators in there, who shall remain anonymous for now. You can meet him if you go join at kingpill.com, go sign up. We're trying to talk him into coming and doing the show with us, because he's, if I'm being honest, like when I'm talking about white pills, when I'm talking about the optimism of the future, often I'm channeling his spirit. I love his insistence on refusing to accept anything except for white pills. He's got a very nuanced view on things. Anyways, his take on this was, he said, this is major. The ADL is the primary body that decides what is officially anti-Semitic. If the ADL's kvetch seal isn't a justification, a lot of things called anti-Semitism are no longer officially recognized as such by the managerial system. And I believe that is very true. This is yet another data point. Just add it to the data points. Keep tying the yarn, pieces of yarn. Yet another data point indicating a change in the winds of popular culture. The many initiatives are being rolled back for one reason or another. The big debate is, are they rolling them all back to return them all in some new, super clever, exponentiated Bond villain fashion? Are they turning it into a social solar death ray? They're giving us a reprieve, making us think that we're winning, and they're just going to rug pull us. Or do these types of social cycles naturally occur in this way? Have they reached the extent of their reach? Are they beginning to grasp beyond their reach and starting to experience the natural consequences of that? I was talking with a good friend of the show, Jason from the 2-Bit podcast yesterday about this, and he has a new term that he's going to drop for you guys. I won't drop it now because I want to let him do that. He's sick right now, so say a prayer for Jason. He got yet another Australian bug, but we're possibly going to be recording with him and or I'm possibly going to be recording with him and Buck Johnson tonight for Buck Johnson's show, but we'll see if he's up for that. Anyways, I'm going to let him drop the term, but I think the term is very, very good, and it relates to consequences, that we're starting to see all the consequences out there. This is what everyone's experiencing is consequences. They don't like the consequences. They want someone to come take the consequences away, which provides the opportunity for those of us who are willing to bear the consequences for others to step in and bear those consequences. Take responsibility for the faults of others and redeem them. We must redeem the errors of our fathers. As we redeem the errors of our fathers, we can begin building a new foundation for our future civilization. Sort of a similar idea here. Tweet from Michael Ian Black, one of the notorious former blue checks. He's still a blue check, but he is now just a lowercase B and C blue check. Before, he was an uppercase with a trademark blue check. If you're not familiar with Twitter, if you weren't on Twitter back in the before times, the blue check was the symbol of authenticity from the regime. All the journos and stuff, they all had their blue checks. And there's a psychological thing that happens that it's still persisted. I mean, it's been who knows how long? What was it, like 2 years or something? And I'm on Twitter literally every single day. So for something like 2 years since Elon changed what the blue check thing is, it's that little thing is still in there. When I get a notification from someone with a blue check, I get the little like, ooh. Because before, if you got a notification from someone who's a blue check, that meant you're probably minimum like 10,000 followers. If they retweeted something, you're probably getting it out to minimum like 10,000 followers, and it could be a lot more than that. But now you get a notification from a blue check, and you go look at it, and they have 71 followers. It's kind of, oh, okay. I appreciate my small accounts, but sometimes when you're trying to get a message out, you like to see the big ones jump in, and that mechanism has been broken. But I don't mind the fact that that's broken, because what this did was, I think a lot of people who don't spend a lot of time on Twitter don't fully appreciate the extent to which it is the tip of the spear. It has been the tip of the spear for American culture for probably 10 years now. I've been on the platform for like 15 years. I've gone through all the different evolutions of it, and I've watched all of this happen in real time. The way the blue check used to be used as a it was like a catalyst that all of these regime journalists and operatives would astroturf some kind of phenomenon. Like one of the most common ways that this would happen is you'd have one of these blue check people who are going to get all their stuff's all going to be signal boosted. They would go post a story or tweet something out that was intentionally designed to be provocative. And then you would get in the replies, there'd be like a whole bunch of different replies from different people all commenting on it. And you'd have like 3 replies from the little egg avatar. So they didn't even upload an avatar. The account was created yesterday. That would say something like really provocatively racist or something like that. And then the next day you would see an article in the Washington Post talking about the response to a particular proposal or people are saying. And it would be quoting from these accounts. And those would be the only replies that were highlighted. And this entire narrative would be built out of this. This is essentially how Russiagate was constructed through Twitter. And all these other different stories of people are saying, and this is what was used to characterize the dissidents from the regime. So they're completely it's very obvious that a lot of these fake accounts are like the journalists themselves replying to their own stuff to make it look like there's this grassroots thing. Oh, it's the scary anonymous guy. He won't show you what his actual identity is. This is what he thinks. This is the boogeyman hiding in the closet. And they were able to the way the platform was being operated. If you didn't have a blue check, then you would be deboosted. Now you'll get boosted by having a blue check, so it's effectively the same, except now anybody can get a blue check. And the monetization structure is fascinating because what it is to monetize on Twitter, to be able to get paid for ad revenue from your tweets, you have to be monetized yourself. You have to meet different standards, and then the way you get paid is when verified users or someone with a blue check sees ads posted in the replies on your tweets, or the ads that are on your timeline if they're looking through your timeline. So what you want, if you're a verified user who's trying to monetize on the platform, is you want other verified users, other people who are paying for the platform, to see your tweets and see the ads in the replies to your tweets. Which means there's now a natural selection effect where the libs who will outright refuse to get the check because they're not going to give money to Elon. Well, then that means if the libs are talking to the libs and only interacting with them, it's going to be much harder for them to actually monetize the platform for themselves. Whereas the vast majority of blue check, like little blue check accounts, the small follower accounts, which are the overwhelming majority of people on Twitter, they're naturally going to skew Elon sympathetic, which means they're going to skew right-wing dissident. They're going to skew in our direction, essentially. So Elon has basically put his thumb on the scale and tilted the public square in our direction. So really, if we were smart, we would never actually interact with any of the libs' tweets. Be a verified user and never view their tweets. Don't look at the replies. Don't interact with them. Don't engage with them. Completely silo them off from themselves. This would make it so the monetization on the platform would skew heavily to the right wing perspective. And it completely broke the credentialing mechanism for the regime in the public square. Now anybody who has a blue check can have that veneer of authenticity granted to them if someone's just scrolling through the timeline and they see something posted by someone with a blue check next to it, it's naturally going to seem more credible and more real. So all these things together are this is part of, I think, what has broken the regime's propaganda apparatus, because they rooted so much of it into Twitter and made all of the rest of the media landscape downstream from Twitter. And they haven't been able to rebuild it elsewhere. And at the same time, all of this opposition is rising against them, which is exponentiating the difficulty of trying to rebuild a new credentialing mechanism. This is why they all hate Elon so much. So Michael Ian Black was one of these constant, insufferable shitlib posters. 1.7 million followers. He takes a screenshot of a Scott Adams tweet. Scott Adams says, "It's impossible to have a political conversation with someone who thinks the news is real. Solve for that first." And he says, "I see this sentiment a lot from MAGA folks, but it always confuses me. If they don't believe the news, how do they get their information? If everybody is lying to you, how is it that you know the truth?" I've noticed this tenor a lot more from these types, where they're becoming much less like arrogant and defiant and far more perplexed. They're just baffled. This is obviously a leading question, and he's trying to smear Scott in the process, but at the same time, he's genuinely like, I don't understand this. Like, how could someone possibly believe this? And this reveals so much about his own psychology. That he can't wrap how would you know something if the news didn't tell it to you? How do you know it's real if it doesn't come from an official channel? This shows a tremendous amount about his own epistemology. It's not just that these people are radically devoted and committed to the idea of the regime's mouthpieces for like an ideological political reason. We're like ideologically, politically opposed to them. We find them revolting. We recoil from them. Ew, yuck, gross. And I think there's a tendency to project the inverse of that on the regime adherents, where they have a self-consciously moral devotion, a self-conscious moral devotion to these things because they are the regime mouthpieces. But that's granting them too much. They genuinely cannot comprehend the idea of living in a world where the media is a performance art. It's all fake and gay. You're starting to see the layers get stripped away, and they're getting much closer to the heart of things. And the resistance to this idea is because imagine if you're a person, and many of you have probably experienced this. Imagine what it's like to see your entire world just collapse and fragment around you. Nothing makes sense anymore. It's all broken. Everything that you had confidence in and everything you believed, it was all a lie. This is really destabilizing. And it's really destabilizing. And something being really destabilizing is particularly traumatic to someone who's naturally more histrionic and given over to anxiety and essentially feminine. This is like how do you know something's true if everyone doesn't agree that it's true? This is a question about the very nature of truth. And to him, the only thing he can comprehend is that truth is something derived by consensus. Trust the experts, the science. The science says. These models, this is far more than just like cultural swings. This is the complete shattering of a worldview that has dominated predominantly Western minds for at least a century, 2 centuries. It's been building for at least 3. And it's being shattered in real time, which is part of what lends to the understanding that 2-Bit Podcast has of the Avengeful Sun phenomenon. Because the thing that follows from this, when you finally begin to internalize that everyone's been lying to you, even if it has the appearance of a conspiracy, if it has the appearance of a conspiracy, even when it's not, when it's just kind of like a conspiracy of instinct, as Tucker Carlson said, then the follow-on from this is anger. It's just a matter of time. And I would say probably sooner rather than later, before even these guys who used to be the diehard adherents to the regime, they go the way of like the Krasenstein brothers, who are beginning to play footsie, or Chris Cuomo. A lot of these post-left influencers, they're beginning to allow these ideas to make headway. Oh, actually, there is a lot of corruption problems in the media. Yeah, they did get these stories wrong. That's how it starts. But this is like a snowball rolling downhill. It's going to be picking up steam and accumulating more and more momentum. A lot of people have the impression of so many of these most diehard, just pathetic, disgusting libs who are the absolute loyalists to the worst things in the world. Like that these people have to be broken down and suppressed by force. But they don't. They just need to be they will be suppressed by the appearance of force. Because ultimately all they are is bellwethers for whatever is popular. As it becomes popular to be skeptical of the media, more and more are becoming skeptical of the media. And then, of course, they do their measured, moderated, like, oh, well, we need our own institutions. And this one, let's figure out which ones are good and which ones are bad. The natural cycle that the mind goes through that every single one of us has gone through at some point. But this is the trajectory. Everything is moving this way. There's so much inertia in the system that trying to turn it takes a long time, and it's difficult, but it begins picking up steam. Once they're actually starting to ask these questions out loud, other people reading along, the lurkers, are asking these questions of themselves as well. And it gives a good opportunity to jump into the replies, like Ashton Forbes here. He says, you use critical thinking. How is this a serious question? It's comments like this that make me think most people are NPC robots just running a script. Indeed, they are. When you hear or see something on TV, you seek the context for it to evaluate the information. Do you really not do that? And he says, of course I do that, but that's not what Adams is saying. He's saying the news isn't real. So when I investigate claims, I tend to rely on news organizations to support or invalidate what I've seen or read. If I can't find credible sources to validate, I disregard. He's saying it right there. Well, if this to judge this news organization, I go look at this other news organization, the one that I think is credible. I've decided I think this one's credible, so I'm going to weigh everything against that news organization. And if I can't find any source that I believe is credible to validate that thing, then I won't believe it. He literally is not capable of critical thinking. like he literally does not have that. That's the leg that's been in a cast for 20 years. It's withered away to nothing. He can't even flex that muscle because the muscle doesn't even exist anymore. It's turned into goo. The media apparatuses have functioned as externalized critical thinking. And the people who naturally began harping on this were like the fringe boomers, the Q people, the hippies, the crystal chicks. They're the ones who are on the fringe. They're the ones the most detached from the mainstream. So there's the natural, more schizo tendency out there. And they're like, oh, critical thinking. I use my critical thinking, says the MAGA boomer grandma wearing the Q shirt. But she's particularly equipped to break out of this one frame. She may not necessarily have the equipment to fall into a better frame, but then that depends upon us to provide the better frame. So critical thinking is actually a skill that has to be cultivated, and our entire education system has been dedicated to ensuring that that doesn't happen, breaking that out of people, teaching them instead of thinking critically, exporting the critical part of the thinking to these institutions, and then taking whatever the institutions tell you and working within those variables. So it's like second order critical thinking. But the first order critical thinking has all been exported. This is part of why I'm saying we need to begin redeeming science. We need to start taking critical thinking and applying it to many of the things that we've just accepted as true. It's like if they've lied to you on all these other things, then why do you just assume this is true? You believe in these massively global orchestrated conspiracies conducted by cabals of men in dark rooms and cigar smoke. Yet then something like, I don't know, the moon landing or the shape of the earth, these things are just, oh, yeah, it's obvious. Oh, look at this, pictures, and everyone says this, everyone believes this. Like, how could you distrust the experts? You'll have someone who's just they spend all their time talking about how the institutions have been completely captured and all the experts are retards and the high priests of academy and all yada, yada, yada. But then it's like, oh, well, these certain hard sciences, they're hard sciences. They haven't been captured in the same way. Maybe they were captured first. Maybe they've been captured all along, and it was them being captured that caused everything downstream of it to be capturable. We're going to get into some schizo stuff that relates to this here in just a minute, but this is a good time to segue into, let me just double check these other stories to make sure there isn't a better one. Let's segue into this one now. So this is going to be probably a little controversial for some people, in part because of what this woman looks like. But I think there's something to this, and I'll elaborate it on. I will elaborate on it as soon as we've watched the clip and read some of the commentary along with it. So Tracy Beans tweets, "The child is 6 and he's just starting to write basic words. I won't say anything else. Just watch it."
So we don't teach our children anything. Everything that they learn is in response to either their interests or their questions. We have no curriculum. We have no school hours. We really just respond whenever they want to know something and do our best to make sure they really get it. And my big fear about free schooling was that if my kids only went towards what they were interested in, saving all of their real estate only for things they're interested in, not cramming it with anything necessary, I was concerned that they would never be interested in things like reading and writing and math. My son's 6, and it took some patience and not comparing myself to other moms, but this is his book. Look at this. Lamp.
Interesting little thing she dropped there. Not comparing myself to other moms. There's that feminine latent instinct she's going to judge herself based on the moms around her. So she's having to fight against this impulse. She's pushing back against the consensus. Someone has created a space for her where she feels comfortable doing this. Where she has she feels like there's a cocoon within which she can begin experimenting and trying things that she knows are going to make her a social outcast. So say what you want about her tattoos, about her whole presentation, I don't know anything about her. I don't know anything about her past. There's all kinds of red flags. But this isn't a red flag. This is something that's admirable. I've been fucked up completely by the term Admiral Byrd. I can't say Admiral Byrd without a pause in the middle. It comes out Admirable Bird. And now I can't even say admirable, apparently. So this is a woman getting on her shit. Someone has created a domain for her to begin expanding and experimenting and trying to test things with the intent of trying to provide for her young. She's doing this out of sincere desire and love for her child.
Egg. Jar. Lion. This is him doing this by himself. Copying down words from other places, asking us more. Same with addition. Mom, what's 7 + 5? It will come at the right time. But if you do not like this idea of sending your kids away for 40 hours a week and then wondering why they have no energy to do anything else, if you are not into your kids conforming, trust that you can follow their interests and they will learn everything they need to learn, not what other people need them to learn. You're welcome.
I'm glad there are people out there that will sit and consume all this content, because I can't. It gives me the ick, I suppose. It's very hard to just sit there and listen to all of it. But yeah, I'm glad other people will highlight it for me so I can do it in little doses. Kate says the fact that she's tattooed and homeschooling or free schooling her child indicates she may be on the right track in her life already, despite her past, whatever it may be. Absolutely. So you can look at just her physical presentation and say, ooh, red flags, red flags, red flags. But you can also look at the trajectory that she's on. She's now a mother. She's a stay-at-home mother who doesn't want her children going to public school. She wants to be responsible as a mom. She wants to determine what her children think. She wants to actually do her job as a mother. And she's here in her house. So it looks like it's a pretty nice house. She's found some guy. I was going to say some white boy. I don't necessarily know if it's a white boy, but I'm going to assume it's a white boy who's providing for her. And if it's not a white boy, more power to that guy. He's got his woman. He's providing for her. He's created a nest for her to start turning into doing her woman thing, engaging in her feminine alchemy. So the response here, all these people, and so the vast majority of the people responding to this, it seems to me, I would assume, are basically in a similar boat culturally or ideologically to her. And they're just completely missing the point. She says, it's really bizarre to me that there are parents who think reading plus math, past very basic counting, addition, and subtraction, are going to spontaneously manifest for their kids. I just don't get it. This legit stressed me out to watch as a homeschool mom. I'm going to go put more handwriting books and explode the code grammar stuff in my Amazon cart. Now, I'm not going to be hard on this chick. She seems sincere. This is the feminine suspicion of the unknown. This is good. But it's not properly directed. Right? The very thing she's saying is disproved literally by the video she's responding to. Reading and math aren't going to spontaneously manifest for their kids. That's literally what she's showing. She didn't teach him how to. Everyone's critiquing his handwriting. Oh, this looks like the handwriting of a 3-year-old. I have a 3 or almost 4-year-old, and he's kind of around in that area. I'd say within the next 6 months, he's probably going to be writing similarly. But literally, what the kid is doing is showing. She didn't teach him how to write this stuff. He went and figured it out himself because he was interested in it. He saw something said lion somewhere, so he went and he copied it. He wrote lion. It literally is spontaneously manifesting for him. The first time I heard of, it wasn't free schooling, it was unschooling was the thing I heard about, which was like the hippie homesteaders, like evolution beyond homeschooling, where it's just like free learning. The responsibility, the parents see it as their responsibility to create the domain, and then the kids have free roam within that domain. And the parents' responsibility is just to make sure, number one, they're doing stuff, and number two, that they're safe. But beyond that, the kid's free to do as they please. The lady who was talking about this was starting to get concerned because her kid was 10 and he hadn't started reading yet. Or I think he was 8. I think he was 8 and he hadn't started reading yet. And she's concerned about this. Like, maybe did I make a mistake? Have I now fucked my kid up for life? And then one day he was like, I think I want to read. And he sat down and read the entire Harry Potter series, like, straight through as an 8-year-old. Never being taught how to read. And so, like, people will see this and they'll say, oh, well, when I was 6, I was reading blah, blah, blah. That's in the replies down here. I was reading Lord of the Rings when I was 6, or my son was doing yada, yada, at this age. The entire point of her video is the kid began doing this spontaneously. He wasn't taught to do this. Kids' minds will naturally gravitate toward learning. They're learning sponges. Everything they do is learning. They just want to learn, unless it gets bred out of them. And the biggest way that it gets bred out of them is by people taking these arbitrarily constructed lesson plans and imposing them on them and forcing them to create like arbitrary brain patterns dictated by someone else that don't necessarily have any bearing on the kid himself. That same lady the kid started reading when he was 8, she said when he was like 16, he'd started his own blacksmithing company. He taught himself blacksmithing because he was interested in it. And then he went and apprenticed with a guy, learned how to blacksmith, and then started his own company, set up his own online store, and did all of this. And this is all just the kid following his interests. I think a lot of people see this and they're like, oh, well, you're just letting your kid just like run around and do shit all day. No, you can provide structure. You can provide direction. You could put things in a room. These are the things you're going to play with. Figure out what you're going to do with those things. Mommy, I want this thing as well. Okay, I'll bring that thing and you can do something with that. We're going to draw or color here. Here's the drawing and coloring things. Do whatever you want within that structured domain. This allows the kids to maximize their own strengths, which is a prerequisite for beginning to build on their weaknesses. You have to maximize the strengths in order to build the weaknesses. Otherwise, you're building weakness from weakness. So I think this is phenomenal. And this is how kids learned until yesterday. The whole Prussian model was developed explicitly to stamp creativity out of kids. The guys who developed it literally said the purposes here are we need to build good factory workers and good soldiers that will just do what they're told. So the entire purpose of these structured education models is initially rooted in the desire to stamp out life and creativity from kids and just turn them into autonomous robots, essentially. Not even autonomous. Cooper says, I'll take all the tatted punk rock chicks that no one wants and go start a colony in Lemuria with just me. Thank you very much. Okay. So let's see now. Let us go to... I got a couple really good quotes here. One of them is from Schopenhauer. One of them is from Nietzsche. So Schopenhauer invented the midwit meme 200 years ago. If you don't know what the midwit meme is, this is the format. You've got the midwit in the middle here, who, and then you've got the I don't know, the low wit and the high wit. And the low wit and the high wit always agree, and the midwit is always like, no, it's more complicated. No, it's different. So Schopenhauer says, people of very great ability will, as a rule, get on better with people of very limited ability than they will with people of ordinary ability. For the same reason as the despot and the plebeian, the grandparents and the grandchildren are natural allies. And there's something about this, like, sort of like, there's a polarity thing going on here, where the grandparents and the grandchildren are able to have a different type of a relationship than the grandparents and the child, or between the grandparents and the parents as their child, and then the parents and their children as their child. And being able to have that relationship is really important for the development of a young brain. But it's an interesting phenomenon. It's very real. That's why the meme is so powerful, because it's very real. It's kind of like as you go, it's like the low end, everything's all simple and just straightforward. And then you get to the middle, no, so everything's super complex and complicated. And then you get to the high and it's like, no, everything's very simple and straightforward. The more I go down all these different schizo streams and begin imbibing all of these schizo topics, the world is getting simpler and simpler. It's not getting more and more complex. It's actually taking complexity out of the systems of the world for me. We got some schizo stuff here coming soon, and then I believe we're going to be doing the schizo stream tonight. I just need to confirm with everybody, but if you want to join us for that, don't know what we're going to watch, but it'll probably be something related to aliens or cryptids or ancient megalithic structures or something along those lines. We should be watching that in the Discord tonight, probably around 9 p.m. Central. That was the last time. Just need to confirm that. Nietzsche describes the resentful man, a chilling passage. See if this sounds like anybody we've talked about recently. There is a human being who has turned out badly. He is bored, disgusted, and despises himself. Having inherited some money, he is deprived even of the last comfort, the blessings of work, self-forgetfulness in daily labor. Such a person who is fundamentally ashamed of his existence, who has become poisoned through and through, eventually ends up in a state of habitual revenge, a will to revenge. Here is Nietzsche predicting the vengeful son. I want to highlight this part here. He says, the blessings of work, self-forgetfulness and daily labor. There's something about human psychology that we need to forget about ourselves. And daily labor is a great way to do that. You get lost in your work. All of a sudden, time seems to change. And when you get lost in your work, it's like time flies, almost as if time is something subjective. And a person who has become fundamentally ashamed of his existence, who has become poisoned through and through because he does nothing productive. He knows inherently there's nothing productive about him. He wants to cling on to these things and say, no, actually there's something really special and unique about me. And that special, unique thing is why I deserve this. No, there's nothing special or unique about you that makes you deserve anything. You earn the things that you get through sacrifice of yourself. And as someone who has not been able to experience that self-sacrificial process becomes resentful and, as Nietzsche says, eventually ends up in a state of habitual revenge, a will to revenge. This is the vengeful son. This is the spirit of the vengeful son, and it's born out of resentment. Men who, and women, but primarily men, who resent all of the different externalities of the liberal system that's been imposed upon them. Not liberal as in capital L liberal, but liberal as in the philosophy of liberalism and the materialism and everything attendant to that. And so they're now taking these well-honed resentment muscles and they're focusing them on the object of their resentment. But ironically, the object of their resentment is systemized, politicized resentment. So now they are resenting resentment. And they want to execute vengeance upon a system of resentment, a system built upon resentment. But when you're operating out of resentment and you're trying to go to war with resentment, you're just producing more resentment. This is why liberalism is a nihilism factory. As the virus begins to spread and take hold of people's minds, it breeds nihilism. Because there's something deep inside us that recognizes the absolute absurdity of resenting resentment and acting out of resentment toward resentment. And it just becomes a spiral all the way down. You have to break out of the resentment. And you have to begin acting out of a true Christian spirit of love and courage and a desire for beauty and goodness. That is the antidote to the vengeful son. The antidote to the vengeful son is the prodigal son redeeming his father. Relatedly, speaking of fathers, come on, share the screen here. This is from Wanye Burkett. So first, we're going to read the thing he's quoting from. So this guy looks exactly like he tweets. He says, "Old man in the waiting room this morning said to my 4-year-old daughter, 'Wow, you're going to be a problem at 16. Apart from violence, what's the proper response to let old dudes know how creepy and inappropriate that is to say? Also, 16?' And someone said, I think you tell them that's completely inappropriate and creepy to say to a child. Please don't do that." And he says, "I was caught so off guard. I didn't think this would start happening for a few more years." Wanye Burkett. I don't know why I'm not following him. Now I am. He says, okay, I'm going to try to explain this because apparently we've entered bizarro world twilight zone, where even very basic aspects of the human condition need to be explained to people. In our culture, and many like it all across the world, and throughout the thousands of years of history, men and women become attracted to one another after puberty and begin the search for a life partner. One of the reasons people are attracted to each other is that they want to have sex. And of course, sex is required to complete the process of family formation. But when we think about girls and boys being attracted to each other, we're not imagining a porno film. We're thinking about dating and relationships and courting and ultimately marriage and family. Now, the part of this that's a little bit crass, but obviously true, is that more attractive people have more suitors. You can notice this without thinking about sex, given that you are not a porn-addled degenerate who is incapable of disconnecting courtship from coitus. So when an old man says, wow, she's going to be trouble later, he's saying she's going to have a lot of suitors, a lot of people courting her, not just for sex, but for relationships and ultimately for marriage, an institution, believe it or not, that he probably still has net positive feelings about. See, the old guy doesn't see a smash cut to a montage of every clip he's ever seen on Pornhub whenever he thinks about teenagers dating. And maybe, just maybe, the actual perverts are those of you who can't imagine two teenagers dating without thinking about them fucking. He's sexualizing her. No, he's thinking about courting, about sharing an ice cream on a summer evening, about marriage, and ultimately about family formation. He's in tune with the rituals and traditions developed over centuries that led to family formation and support a functioning society. You're thinking about fucking. The call is coming from inside the house. It's a gooner. The other dude is a gooner. The guy says, the guy's story doesn't support that. The old guy most likely was talking about an energetic, misbehaving girl who'd be more energetic and misbehaving at 16. And he said, yeah, this is the part we really can't know because the phrase, absent any other context, is ambiguous and could be meant either way. It could be a way to say she's pretty and will have a lot of suitors. It could also mean that she's ornery and rambunctious. Jolly Raptor says, yes, my wife would get a lot of comments along these lines from old people in the grocery stores about my beautiful blonde 4-year-old daughter. It's only weird to porn brains. Never mind. That wasn't worth reading. And the funny thing here is I do think this guy means well. You know, it's not his fault that he's been trained to be porn brained. This was something that happened to him long before. This is programming that was coded into him long before he was remotely equipped to prevent it from happening. And this is the waters that he swims in now. This is evidence of the way these people are completely closed off from the rest of society around them. A bunch of porn-brained NPCs who are in a self-reinforcing spiral. These sorts of things automatically terminate themselves. They cannot persist. They literally are not equipped to persist. These are the people that we have to redeem. The onus is on us to build the civilization around them that will draw those who are available to be drawn out of it, that will draw them out of it. They don't need to be bludgeoned from existence. They need to be redeemed. I can't remember if I said this earlier, but Charles Haywood talks about how so many of these people are just, the vast majority of people in society are just followers of whatever is popular, whatever's been reinforced to them. And when that changes, they change too. They're not ideologues. The vast majority of people are not like conscious and intentional and critical about their own worldview. They are just embodying whatever is around them and projecting it out. They're grasping in the dark. Hey, you've been brainwashed the same way? Okay, let's be friends. We can reinforce our beliefs to one another. You don't have to go after these people. They're weak and soft and pathetic and insecure, and they just follow the winds of popularity, the winds of culture. So it's a very real example of build it and they will come. Those who don't come after you've built it, pardon the pun, those who don't come after you've built it, you may need to do something with them. But you have to build it first before that can even become a possibility. Taylor Brown says, I don't think it's just pornography that's done this to our minds. The serial obsession with mass murderers like Ted Bundy and such have made people much less trusting and much more aware of threats. That's true. And there's a good part of that. It is good to be more conscious and aware of threats. But this now has to be mediated by a conscious choice by strong people to begin redeveloping the trust. Because we can't function as a society existing in this world where everyone is, I mean, I do it. Like, I go out. I don't like being in large crowds of people anymore. Like going to a sporting event, or there's no way I'm going to go to some sort of political protest or something like that. I went to the March for Life in Austin a few months ago with the family, and I was on high alert the whole time. This is the problem with this is you don't want your people to be to be seeing boogeymen all the time. We have to push back against it even when we don't necessarily want to. A part of the revival of masculinity has to be doing things that may be risky, specifically because they're risky, to prove that they can be done without the harm. You have to have wisdom to choose your times. All right. I got a few more stories here. Let's start with this. So I've been talking about some of the schizo stuff lately. We talked about water a little bit before. And one thing that I've been learning a lot about lately is like the structure of water, like structuring water and what different types of flow does to water, and ways that we can actually interact with water that seem to violate what we would assume to would it doesn't seem real. It seems fake. There seems like there's something not real. But once you start studying this stuff, if you start reading some of the papers associated with it, or listening to the people who are practicing this sort of thing, experiments and such, then it's very obvious there's something to this. This guy's Goofball 10X says the water is sad when you're mean to it. So this here is a crystal of water that's been exposed to the words "thank you," typed on a paper, pasted on the bottle. This is water that's been exposed to the words "you make me sick, I will kill you," typed on a paper, pasted on the bottle. For some reason, what's completely mind-blowing about this is that there's a conceptual transfer here happening, because when you say thank you, like, these are just like mouth sounds. There's not an objective meaning to this sound. But there's some way in which water is able to, it becomes a medium that can embody something having to do with the sentiment that's embedded in them. I mentioned yesterday, I think it was, about the way that human consciousness can affect quantum random number generators to a significant degree, to like 3 or 4 percentage points. And what's really wild about that is the way that they test this is they have someone sit in a room. That person has no idea what they're doing, no idea why they're there. They just give them a prompt. They say, think of either the word 0 or 1 and hold it in your mind. Like, hold an image of a 1 in your mind and just do it for 30 minutes. Just sit there, just hold it in your mind for 30 minutes. Do your best to block out other thoughts and just hold 1 in your mind. Visualize the image of a 1 and hold it in your mind. What those people don't know is that there is a quantum random number generator there, and they don't. The guy operating it doesn't know what the person has the prompts the person has been given. He's just watching the probability distribution, or however it works. And the act of holding the image of 1 in your head biases the random number generator. The presence of human consciousness there biases the random number generator. When massive global events have happened, like Princess Diana's death or 9/11, all the random number generators in the world all start like kind of malfunctioning, and they start landing on the same results, biasing against the natural patterns. So it's not truly random. There's something about human consciousness, especially when you get many people all focused on the same thing, that is traveling through reality in some way and affecting the physical world around us. This makes sense within Orthodox anthropology, if you understand why man was created and how man was created, and that man is the intersection between heaven and earth. The divine logos is human. So the ordering principle of the universe is human. So human consciousness is an incredibly powerful thing that we barely even understand what it is, how it functions, if it is even a thing that functions. Like what? Like this is straining the very bounds of reality. What's really fascinating about that is that somehow the random number generator understands that one, I'm talking about this in the only terms that I can. There's clearly is not exactly how it works, but I think you guys get the idea. One, like the picture of the number one in your head is a symbol that humans use to identify a particular concept. And the random number generator can make that transposition. So it understands that it's not just the symbol that you're holding in your head, but the symbol has meaning to it. Meaning that humans have ascribed to it. That the random number generator can understand. I don't know what this means. Like I want more people talking about this and thinking about this and trying to figure it out, because the implications of this are just absolutely astronomical. Literally. Cosmic implications. Here's one particular implication. Ben Braddock on the timeline says, based on this thing about water, he says, how do you think water reacts to being branded liquid death? Probably not good. Remember, the Federal Trade Commission requires truth in advertising. And someone said, it was in the replies, it was like, oh, it's so stupid, you don't even understand that it just means death to plastic. But if we understand this phenomenon, if you say thank you to water, it constructs itself into these crystalline, like snowflake shapes, where there's beautiful patterns to it. If you say, what was it, like you make me sick, I'll kill you, then it gets all disordered looking. And not just that, this looks like a little person here who's is like choking something or like holding a bow and arrow. Like, is this like an archer or an assassin? Or now you might just attribute this to pareidolia. Is that what it's called? Let me make sure I got the term right here. It's where you pareidolia. So it's where you start you're seeing patterns or you're seeing shapes in something that aren't really there, supposedly. So you might just attribute that to this. I mean, even just like this here, like this is very obviously a clear difference between this and this. You don't even have to get into like trying to figure out if there's a shape here. But I'm going to share something with you guys that is probably going to blow your mind, because it has completely blown mine. Once I show it to you, you guys can go down the rabbit hole if you'd like yourself to verify it. But I'm telling you, there is absolutely something to this. I know that from more than just looking at these things. I happen to have a little bit of more inside knowledge on some of these, but I don't even know how to talk about it. So let me see if I can blow this up a little bit bigger. This chick's name is Veda Austin. Now, I was saying yesterday that we need to start redeeming the hippies. She's definitely a hippie. I've listened to a couple of her interviews, and there's stuff that she's getting into that I'm like, oh, okay, you should be careful with that. But one of the things she does is she studies the crystals that form in water when you freeze it. She has some particular freezing methods. She teaches her process. She's got courses on the site. And so the cynics, she's just doing this as a gimmick to sell her stuff. Yeah, she gives you a promo code, and she says if you can't afford it, then just enter the promo code and it's free. So if you listen to her talk, you could tell that this is a sincere, authentic belief. Maybe she's deluded. I don't know. But I can't deny this. What she does is she takes a little petri dish of water, and she has like a thin layer of water in there. In this case here, she writes the number 4 on a piece of paper and then either sets it underneath the water or on top of the petri dish. It works either way. And then she freezes it. And this is what the water produces. It produces a 4. Here's this one. This picture of this chick. This is what the water produces. Got to zoom this out, I guess, yeah, here, I'll pull this over. Ginkgo leaves. This is what the water produces. A photo of a braid. This is how the ice freezes in a braid. Amethyst crystals. There's the pattern. This one's crazy. Look at this. So you can see the Petri dish sitting on top of this photo. And this is how the ice freezes it. A spiral placement. You can see the spiral in the water. Or a spiral placemat. Her son's hands. You can see she has her hand underneath it. She's holding the Petri dish on her palm like this, and he's putting his palm on top of it. And you can see there's multiple hand images frozen in the ice. Here's some more. So this one here, this was the first one that she ever did. She'd been learning about some of this stuff related to the crystalline structure of water and the manipulability of it and everything. And so she wanted to try, she was trying, I don't remember what she was trying to do with it, but she was freezing it. And before she did that, she reached down and she pulled a little fuzz. There was a little like piece of hair or something that had fallen in the water. And she reached in with her finger and thumb and just pulled it out. And this is how the ice froze, with a hand in it. This one here, she stuck her toes in it and it returned a foot. And she's done that one multiple times. This one's a thumb. Woman's face, children. Some of these are a lot less clear. Man's profile. Some sea life and insects. A caterpillar. A butterfly. A fish. Now, I don't know if these things are actually, some of these, I don't know what methodology she used. This is a drawing of a little kid's like drawing of a horse. Very clearly a horse in here. Here's a dog with the eye. You can see the nose, the sort of the head and like the ears, the body of the dog. Sometimes what she does is she uses these images, like a picture or a drawing or something written. There was one of them where she did, let me see if I can find this. She wrote the word Excalibur on a piece of paper. Here's a crucifix. Coins. She wrote the word Excalibur on a piece of paper, and she like sets it on it for 30 seconds or something like that. Here's a phoenix. And then she froze it, and when it came back, it's a very clear picture, very, very clear sword. Space with a satellite, shooting stars. So now some of these, she has used the pictures. Some of them, she has spoken words to it. She has said like a specific word or like a number, like she'll say 4 and it'll return 4. One of the stories she told, and this is anecdotal, no proof of it, so take it for what you will, but she's starting to suspect that there's something about that's conscious about the water. It's somehow, because she's even gone so far, and this has been reported with other people as well, so she's not alone in this, where she's taken her Petri dish and she sleeps in the total dark. So this is not just a light thing. It's not like a projection of light. She sleeps in the total dark. She puts the Petri dish there, and she has a dream. She wakes up in the morning, she freezes the ice, and an image from her dream is in the ice. Now, again, that one I can't prove. That one I can't show you an image of. We can't prove what was actually her dream. She could just be saying it. Who knows? I get the sense that she's not just making this stuff up. But one of the times she said someone had asked her to produce to test something, and she asked she said in her mind she was planning on posting it publicly, and she said she wasn't going to, or something like that. So it's basically, this is a very weird thing to say, but she lied to the water. So she said, produce yada, 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 and I'm never going to show it to anyone. And then she froze it. And when she pulled it out, very clearly in the ice were N-O. Again, can't prove it. Don't have any documentation of it. Just taking her word for it. But there's something here. And the implications to this would be absolutely profound. If water somehow relates to or understands human consciousness, it can read your mind, so to speak, then you might get, there's all kinds of different consequences of this. Like the collective emotional sentiment in a particular area could affect the weather. Maybe you get storms in places because everyone's feeling stormy. I don't know if it would be one-to-one like that, but makes you think about rain dances a little different. There's something about reality that we have not fully grappled with in the West. Josiah says the theophany had a real cosmic significance. Yeah, holy water. Holy water was Cooper says holy water here. There's a saint. See, if you remember this, Cooper, let me know. There was a saint from, I think it was in the 20th century, who was a very accomplished surgeon. And he said that he said that the best thing that you could do for your health is to drink a little holy water every day. And he said, I'm saying this in my status as a surgeon, not as a priest or a bishop. I don't remember if he was a priest or a bishop, but he's saying I'm not saying this as a clergyman. I'm saying this as a surgeon, that one of the most well-documented phenomena that I've seen in my career that corresponds to good health is drinking holy water. Blessing water, saying a prayer over your food. All of these things may have much more deeper significance than we necessarily appreciate. Because beyond this, not even just saying words to it, people have done experiments with this where they think a thought. They direct a thought at the water. They might direct the thought of horse, and the water will show a picture of a horse. Sometimes it's more abstract. They'll have a thought of angry, and the water will look all stormy and distorted, or peaceful, and the water will be really peaceful. If this is the case, if we have this sort of relationship with water, then the implications of modern plumbing system and adding chemicals to water to purify it and all that sort of thing. I've heard when water flows through a right angle, it actually, you get a clumping effect of the water molecules on those right angles. And the best way for plumbing should have a vortex shape, because water naturally has this vortex shape. So there's people that do stuff like structuring their water, spinning it before they drink it, and it actually changes the structure, and in some cases can even change the chemical composition of the water. So if you go listen to this chick stuff or other people that are doing this, a lot of them are very much in the kind of new age hippie, she gets into stuff where she's asking the water to show her extra dimensional beings and that kind of thing. And it's definitely doing something. And that's where I'm like, okay, let's back off there a little bit. But the answer to this isn't say it's fake and push these people aside and ignore it. We need to redeem these fields. This is what scientists used to be. Scientists were just random people that were like, hey, here's this interesting thing I've got an autistic obsession about. I'm going to study it relentlessly for the rest of my life. And I'm going to write papers about it. I'm just going to write about it because this is the way we communicate information. And this becomes papers, and then you get peer review and all this other sort of thing. But this is legitimately people doing science in a not gay way. And I think we need to encourage this and try to provide structure and direction and bring our worldview to them to help them better understand what it is they're encountering. Because there's a lot of dangerous potential to this if you're not doing it properly. James Moore says, if collective consciousness affects the weather, the year before and the year after Barack's re-election produced the worst years for tornadoes to date. That's very interesting. It's become it's basically common knowledge now that weather modification is a real thing. There's an interesting channel I follow on, or a page I follow on Twitter, where a guy is showing all these weird radar phenomena associated with big storms in the southeast of the U.S., where it looks like they're using light beams or projections of various frequencies and stuff to corral storms, to prevent storms or prevent different pressure patterns from combining in a way to either prevent rainfall in a certain area or to cause flooding in a certain area. They had all that flooding in Dubai a couple months ago. It was absolutely catastrophic, just completely obliterated their infrastructure. But in the long run, that's a white pill. Because imagine if you could start actually bringing rain to a desert. You create more habitable land. There's a lot of there's so many different potential applications to understanding what it really comes down to, I think, is beginning to take the ideas of the ether seriously. That there is an ether, and the ether operates according to certain rules. The ether has a structure to it, and that structure is discoverable and manipulable. And the way, like the avenue to discovery for that lies through the realm of sacred geometry and mathematics and harmonics and resonance and frequency, all these sorts of things. This has implications for light, for gravity, for the shape of the earth, the structure of the cosmos. All of these things have to be reconfigured. There's a ton of very interesting theories and work and stuff that have been done on this. And I can tell you, this stuff has been, they have the old the adage that what is it, millionaires and below use astronomy and billionaires use astrology. So the people who really have the resources, who really can afford to stray out into the weird schizo land, they're using this stuff that everybody else writes off as not real. But there's definitely something real to it. Okay, so there's that schizo stream. There's that little schizo bit. Last two stories here are connected to one another, and this is going to be a good lead-in for our stream this afternoon. For those of you who have joined us since we got started, thank you. Go back to the very beginning and watch the we had a couple of pump up clips that'll get you hype. And probably around 2 p.m., 2:30 p.m. Central this afternoon, Cooper and I are going to be doing the live watch along of Tucker Carlson's interview with Nayib Bukele. It's a profound interview, and there's lots of stuff to talk about in it. So I know some of you have been looking forward to that. It's coming. It's coming this afternoon. So I'm going to wrap up here with a little commentary on Milei and Bukele and Build a Caesar. Shout out to Jason from the 2-Bit Podcast. Hope he's doing well. Haven't seen him in the chat today, so I'm going to assume he's probably not feeling super well. He had I talked to him on the phone for a couple hours last night, and he was definitely sick. You could hear it in his voice, and his little one was coughing constantly in the background. So prayers up for them. So he has this idea of Build a Caesar, where he said everyone's looking for like the one super based leader that does all of the things. And we're not going to get that yet. We may never get that. But along the road to getting that, what we're going to get is this Build a Caesar phenomenon. If you understand mimetic theory, the way mimetics operate with human societies, all you need one guy in one domain to act as Caesar there, to take radical responsibility and authority and demand radical change and ensure that it gets executed. And now he becomes an example for all the others. And he just needs to do that in one domain, and you get another guy to do it in another domain, and another guy to do it in another domain. And eventually this process is going to manifest the guy who's going to do it on the Napoleon or the Augustus or the Saint Justinian, the guys that are the real epoch markers in history. One of them is coming. And what Milei and Bukele, among others, are doing is laying the groundwork for that. So, for the 5th month in a row since Javier Milei became president, Argentina has posted a budget surplus. And at Altamore on Twitter says, Milei is to the economy as Bukele is to crime. In both cases, the left chuckled at straightforward, common sense solutions. Has anyone considered putting criminals in jail? And argued that no, you simpleton, the causes of crime are complex and multifaceted. What we really need to do is look at systemic inequities that exist in society and throw billions at NGOs, which happen to be managed by their cousins. Then Bukele arrives, jails go burr, and crime collapses overnight. Milei is doing the exact same thing to inflation and state budget. Turns out the issue's really not that complex at all and could be entirely solved in literally 1 month with simple common sense policies. Here's a great example of the midwit meme. So, Grug at the bottom says, put criminals in jail. Chad at the top says, put criminals in jail. And the midwit in the middle says, no, you simpletons don't understand. The causes of crime are complex and multifaceted. What we really need to do is look at systemic inequities that exist in society and implement anti-racist criminal justice reform by throwing billions at NGOs. The grift, this particular grift, is almost up. There's one other one other clip that I wanted to share, or a tweet, and I thought I had it pulled up, but of course I didn't. So I know my my keywords here. It's just going to take me a sec to punch all of these in. Here's the original 2-Bit podcast, one of his original takes on this. Revenant said, so are we supposed to hate Milei now because he said some Zio cringe? That's like every politician. If I have to choose between standard Zio cringe and Zio cringe that shutters entire government agencies, then I'm choosing the latter. And 2-Bit says, I've said that Milei, Bukele, and a few others are part of the build a Caesar trend. All they have to do is succeed in one area or policy to start the political mimetic trend that will stack. Breaking, Argentina President Javier Milei starts implementing the policies of El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele's policies against criminal gangs and drug traffickers. Pictures from the Santa Fe maximum security prison in Rosario show the first example of Bukele-style raids, quote unquote. He says Operation Build a Caesar is coming along nicely, I see. And this is the one right here. So he tagged me, he says, Build a Caesar is coming along nicely, it seems. Reid, nationalist, posts a picture from I don't know which news outlet this is, but with falling interest rates, with falling inflation and interest rates, Argentine President Javier Milei turns his attention away from the economy and gets real on the fight against criminal gangs. Milei to implement hardcore security measures inspired by El Salvador's Bukele to combat criminal gangs. Reid nationalist says, Bukele has broken the spell. We no longer have to believe that violent crime is a fact of life like rain that we just can't do anything about. Our leaders have peddled this lie because endemic crime benefits their kleptocratic regime. Crime is an option. Build a Caesar is coming along. Taylor Brown says, hope to God Trump imports that approach here. Well, yes. Now that this exists out there, it creates the pretext for bringing it in. Look how well it worked there. See their great results. They beta tested this process for us, and now we can make it better and adapt it to our own areas. And if Trump doesn't do it, governors can start doing it. Mayors can start doing it. All it takes is one. One of them does it, manages to make it happen, creates the formula, and then more and more people will begin to demand it. The propaganda mechanism of the regime has been broken. It's going to take time for it to be completely rooted out, but we're reaching the tipping point where more and more people are just rejecting the things that are told to them by the media. It seems like we're on the cusp of everything's kind of quiet right now. They're kind of waiting for something. It's almost like maybe there's negotiations happening behind the scenes. Perhaps, I don't know. But it seems like there's going to be another major event, another inflection point. And then things are going to radically bend one way or the other from that point. And the thing about propaganda, the thing about trust, is that once it's broken, it's very difficult to get back. Basically, the only way that the media could restore their propaganda stranglehold on the popular culture would be through the introduction of some sort of black swan event. But the problem is, they've played this card over and over and over again, to the point where the introduction of another major black swan event is just as likely to completely eliminate their power as it is to maximize it. Because the introduction of a black swan event is a pretext for someone to step in and solve that problem and actually solve it and amass wild support for that process. So that's a big risk. They can't just press the black swan event generator button and just continue to recoup benefits from it. Because the nature of a black swan event is that they don't keep happening over and over and over again. Eventually, if you're the people in charge and all that's happening under your watch is constant instability and chaos and strife and controversy and breakdown over and over and over again of all the different systems that everyone's depending on and has become dependent on, that they rely upon them excessively, introducing more and more of them just breaks down people's trust in your leadership. So that leaves them in a bind. How do we reconsolidate power if the only mechanisms that we have for consolidating power are the things that have been undermining our power. And there's a lot of people who are building in the background, ready to take advantage of some sort of black swan event. Have they built sufficiently yet? I don't know. It's hard to know exactly what's going on behind closed doors. It's hard to know because by its nature, these sorts of things aren't being built publicly. We're getting hints at them. We hear about them occasionally in little blips, but it's tough to triangulate, which is good. It's good for those things to be tough to triangulate. Leave you guys on this thought. Emmett Shear tweets, by necessity, there is some year at which any civilization still in existence is at its peak so far. Which year is that for America? Mark Andreessen says sometime between 2200 and 3000 TBD. Santiago Pliego says, in a way, the current culture war boils down to two groups of people. Those who think America and the West peaked already, and those who think the best centuries are ahead. I know that you guys know where I stand on this. I think the best centuries are ahead. I think the best decades are ahead. The best years. I think all of it is still ahead of us. We are on the bleeding edge of the growth of the American empire. The growth of America as a true sovereign imperial power. I think we have many years of great wealth and growth and prosperity ahead of us. Some of this boils down to is related to these ideas of the ether and the consciousness of water and the structure of the cosmos. There's been a lot of suppressed knowledge about this that has existed and persisted in many different domains of life, but it's been largely ignored. And Peter Thiel identifies this when he says, since the 1970s, we've made great advances in the world of bits, but we've made very few advances in the world of atoms. And I think the world of bits is now colliding into the world of atoms. And it's necessitating innovation in the world of atoms. And I think when we begin to innovate in the world of atoms again, we're going to unlock a new period, a new golden age. I'm not being utopian. I don't think everything's going to be all hunky-dory. I think really it's just, I think the cycles of history are much more mundane than they feel when we're living through them. Everyone thinks they live in the final age. Everyone thinks they live at the end of the world. They're going to be the last generation. This is kind of like generational narcissism. And it has a positive and a negative manifestation. Some people are like, we live in the final age, so it's incumbent upon us to make the most of ourselves. Other people say, we live in the final age, so there's nothing we can do and we might as well just sit around and wait for everything to die. I don't care what your motivation is for the former. I just care that you have that motivation. We can refine the motivations later on. Taylor Brown says, stop living with the mindset of the end of history. Right. We all live in the end of history. We're always at the end of history at all times. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist yet. The future is there for us to create. So you have to both live with the mindset of the end of history, but also don't live with the mindset of the end of history. Yet another paradox. Start living with the mindset that you are the inheritors of a new dawn of history. That's right. We have an inheritance to bequeath to our descendants. I'll see you guys in a couple hours. This will be a good one. Bukele and Tucker. You could see a real statesman. The first genuine statesman that I've seen in a long time, and I think there are many more to come. He's the first of his kind. We are re-entering the world, the age of statesmen. The age of revolutions is coming to an end. The age of redemption is beginning. And I'm glad I get to share that with you guys. Do me a favor, like the stream, share it, subscribe to the channel, and as the hype man says, join the Discord, kingpill.com. Come join us for the Schizo stream tonight. Don't be fake and gay. Follow me on Twitter @RealKingPilled, and